And so I do think that you need these kind of new ideas, these, smaller countries that don't have or aren't subjected to the innovator's dilemma to be able to do this stuff. It's a whole different ballgame when the United States, the leader of the free world, steps in and says, we're going to set up a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And there's really kind of now you're legitimizing this. And I think that you're going to kind of drive that mass adoption of countries to start to do this. And
Yeah.
so one of the things I think people are underestimating is that the United States of America, the government, is going to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to acquire as much Bitcoin as they possibly can. They are not going to sit there and just simply have 200,000 Bitcoin that are currently on the balance sheet.
No, I
I think
totally
that
agree
they
with
want to get millions of Bitcoin, and they're going to work really, really hard to do it.
Yeah, no, look, I've always thought as a distributed ledger, look, I'm a tech guy, and you're speaking my language about the innovator's dilemma and being adopted on the fringe. And like, this is what I was afraid of when we were going to have this conversation is I'm going to go, ah, shit. I should have seen this coming a lot sooner because of how I looked at new technologies, and now I've missed out on the run from 10 to 100,000. So I'm glad to hear that it's not too late in your view. But then how do you look at what's the next domino to fall to encourage more adoption, right? So strategic reserve, the U.S. government starts buying more because I think, is there a way that they start putting our whole federal spending on the blockchain? Is that something that all of a sudden legitimizes it more? What do you think is the next big win for crypto, for Bitcoin?
I think with Bitcoin, they established the strategic reserve, but when they start announcing that they're buying, I think right now people think they're just going to hold, but if they start actively buying, that will really kick off this kind of global FOMO, this race for who can accumulate the most amount of Bitcoin. And you're seeing this, right? You've seen MicroStrategy really ramp up their purchases. You've seen companies like MetaPlanet in Japan really ramp up their purchases. You now have GameStop going ahead and ramping up purchases.
Yeah, that's something I want to get to too, is, how do you view this, right? Is this I look at it from the fiduciary responsibility to increase shareholder value, right? The main principle of a public company. And you're saying at GameStop, you have 4.8 billion plus the 1.3 billion you just did a convert on your balance sheet. And the best opportunity you can find is to go buy Bitcoin. Like, I mean, I look at it again, I'm gonna be direct. I look at the shit coins going to shit co's, right? Like, if everyone starts adopting this, should the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ just be full of holding companies for Bitcoin? I mean, is that where we're going? Where does that stop?
Right. Well, right now, the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ is full of companies that are just holding cash, and that cash is losing value every single day. And then they try to put it in treasuries, and the treasuries have a negative real rate of return if you look at the actual inflation number, not the government number,